Hey, we're back, everybody, for another episode of Paw and Order Las Vegas, the animal welfare podcast where we hope to educate and empower you to take action. I'm Bryce Henderson, president of No Kill Las Vegas, and with me, of course, is Gina Greisen of Nevada Voters for Animals and Melanie Shane with Kiss My Paws Rescue. And Melanie was just pointing out our new logo that you see behind her. You want to tell everybody what those dogs represent?
I do. So back here on the right, so that's Turbo. He's actually the reason why I got into animal rescue. He's our little logo on our for Kiss My Paws Rescue, my soul dog, who has been deceased for the last year and a half. But this is a representation of Gina's dog.
Amazing Grace.
Amazing Grace.
And she's no longer with us either. Mm-hmm. She's over the Rainbow Bridge, but she was my soul dog too.
Yeah.
And then my dog Arbor, who's still with us. She's 15, but she's still loving life, enjoying her walks, and no longer really painting, but still an inspiration to me.
I know. I saw those videos before
of her painting.
Like, that was so awesome.
Yes, that's how our nonprofit started, because of her and her following.
And
I think you need to adopt the dog today that was that Henderson Shelter had on Channel 13 today.
What was he doing? Drywall?
Border Collie mix.
Drywall. That would be awesome.
But
the
dog
to my house.
was licking, was so loving and was a little spirited. But I bet you could teach that dog anything, because those Border Collie.
Oh yeah, it was a Border Collie.
It's a Border Collie mix, but they're so intelligent. And we just lost ours. That was the last podcast that day. Was Elizabeth, but they're amazing dogs.
I wanted to give a quick update, because last episode we talked about firework safety with your pets. And actually, out of all the videos we've posted to promote the podcast, this one actually received the most views. I was surprised. And I checked with the Animal Foundation, and they actually took in about 47 strays a day on Saturday and Sunday, the days after the 4th of July. Normally, they take in about 18. So there was definitely an increase. But we have a very special guest with us in here today. You might see Cleo here, Cleopatra. She was just adopted from the Animal Foundation, and with her is her new owner, RT. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having
me. We love to bring the stories people see on their news feeds on social medias into the studio here, so people can learn more about what's happening. And your story was very unique. And why don't you explain what happened? Because you just adopted Cleopatra from the Animal Foundation.
Yeah. So Cleopatra, Miss Cleo, as I've been jokingly calling her. She was in the Animal Foundation. I picked her up on Saturday the 28th, and that was a weekend that they were doing one of their free shelter events, waived the adoption fee and everything. So I was like, great. I've been thinking about doing this with my kids for a while. I'm divorced, and I, go to get them on weekends. So I was like, hey, this would be, a nice thing for me and my kids to do. We can, have our dog together. And so that was the plan. So we went down. I had a few pictures of a few dogs that I saw on the Animal Foundation's website. Went down, and she was on there. Her name was Daisy in the Animal Foundation. But then we met her. My kids immediately fell in love with her. They're 6 and 8, so it's easy for them to fall in love with a dog. Then we were on our way to bringing her home. So one thing did get me nervous, specifically when we were leaving the Animal Foundation that day. Basically everything was done. They ran all the paperwork, did all that stuff, and we were on our way out. And they wanted to scan her one more time. And the first thing I thought was like, oh, wait, are they going to find, somebody else's chip? And like, we're about to leave, and now they're not going to let us go. But then they said, no, they have the chip, and it looks like it's your information. So I didn't really verify it at that time, because like I said, I had my little kids with me. It was about 7 p.m. So we were ready to go.
I'm sorry. Hold on one second. So they scanned the dog for a chip and said your information was on the chip?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly like what it was. Like they said that there was a chip, and basically that we were good to go.
Okay.
Right. So like I said, I didn't really verify that. We put her new retractable leash on her, and then we got out of there.
So hold on. I do have a question, because this is actually a problem in general. Did they let you know that you needed to be the one to register the chip?
No, they did not.
But I think they're supposed to do that, aren't they?
I was told that
I thought that
I thought they.
Well, before we get into the adoption details, I really want RT to tell the story that people may have been reading about on social media, because after he got home, how many days later you received an email from the Animal Foundation asking you to return Cleo?
It was a phone call, actually. So I left work on Tuesday. So I've had her for 3 days. Leave work on Tuesday, and I get a phone call a little bit before 6 p.m. and they're saying, hey, thank you for the adoption. It's, really, really noble of what you did. But there's an issue. Turns out that there was another name on the chip or whatever it was. And basically they were saying that with their with their agreement with Clark County, that she would need to be in the Animal Foundation's custody while they were still searching for the people that were actually on the chip. So basically, they were telling me to bring this dog back that I had just adopted from the Animal Foundation, from an overcrowded Animal Foundation, to take her back while they were going to be looking for these people.
And how'd you feel about that?
Oh, I was devastated.
And your family?
I was devastated. I shed some tears for sure because, she's basically all I got. So, if they were going to take her away, I wasn't going to let that happen. I had to tell my kids, that night, and my son got really upset that he even got a bloody nose while he was crying. So it was just terrible. So then I decided, Wednesday morning that, I told them that I would bring her in on Wednesday by 6 o'clock, and I was like, no, that's not happening. She's perfectly fine where she is. So I talked about that basically on Facebook, and I got a lot of traction, a lot of likes. That's how you were able to find me. And people agreed. They agreed that it was messed up, that the Animal Foundation was trying to have me take her back to their overcrowded facility. And not just that, it's a few days before the 4th of July, which we know they're going to be getting overcrowded again. So it was terrible. And like I said, they were, or I don't know if I mentioned it, but they said that it would take almost about 2 weeks for them to search for these people, and they have to give them enough time to be able to respond. And that was just what it was, and I just had to bring her back. But fortunately, I said no, and she stayed right here with me this entire time. She's like well adjusted. I mean, you can see how well adjusted she is with me. So she's home. She's
Did you know how long she was at the shelter before you went to visit her?
Yeah. So on their website, they said that she had come in on June 17th, and then I picked her up on the 28th. So 11 days.
11 days. They hadn't scanned her. If they had, they didn't bother to call anyone that was on the chip.
I guess so. I can only assume. Right. So
there's so many holes in this story.
But regardless of whether there was a chip scan or not, a 72-hour hold is a 72-hour hold. And if someone was actively looking for her, then they would have had the 72 hours to find her.
Correct.
I thought the issue though was, and it was the one that called Bryce and told him that you were tagged, and I was tagged as well. And then you and I just never connected. Right. But I called Bryce and said, make sure you kind of find out what's going on.
Right, well, thank you.
But I thought that the concern was that we didn't know if the dog had a chip, and that people were saying, what should he do? And I was saying, go scan the dog for a chip and let's see what it says. Because here's, at the end of the day, I think, because this is not something they typically do at all.
No.
But they're supposed to scan the dog for a chip. It sounded to me like they weren't certain if they actually did that. If the dog had been... No, they're saying
they had scanned it and found a chip, and they never called.
Oh, is that what? Okay.
Yeah, and even in my paperwork adoption, it says right here, no microchip. There was nothing.
So did she have a chip or did she not have a chip?
I don't know.
Does she? But she has a chip now because they chipped her before you left. Is that what?
So you were saying that you just went to the vet today, though, and they did find a chip.
Today I took her to the vet, and my friend and I, who works there, she and I were scanning her body all over, and we found the chip. And she just has the chip number. So I'm going to try to call the whatever chip company it is to try to find out. But she did say that the chip was last updated on February 2nd of this year. So earlier this year.
Yeah. We'd all be really curious to find out where this dog was before. Was it at the Animal Foundation or with a different rescue group? Because Melanie brought up, you don't tip the... How old do they think Cleopatra is?
About a year.
Yeah. You don't typically find dogs with chips unless they've come out of the shelter. Would you ladies agree?
Or with a rescue.
A rescue, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something similar, one of the first things that I thought about, okay, she was in there for 11 days and nobody came to find her. Something similar happened to me when I was a kid, mid-90s. I was maybe 10 years old. Our dog Lady got out. I kept calling the lead animal shelter, describing her. And then after a couple days, they were like, yes, we do have her. And then we went down to the animal shelter to pick her up. And I specifically remember them saying, hey, there's this new thing called microchipping. Because like I said, it was the mid-90s. So they were like, would you like to do it? Cost us about $200. My mom did it. And then Lady was microchipped, and we took our other dog Snoop to get microchipped soon after.
And so now what happened to it?
Go ahead.
As of today.
As of today.
That's what I was just going to ask.
Okay.
So as of today, right? So with the Animal Foundation, they're supposed to do a spay or a neuter. So she was supposed to be spayed.
As far as ownership is concerned.
Ownership is good now, as of right now.
Okay,
Wait,
what
is she
happened?
spayed?
No, she's not.
So she's a foster to adopt.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what we
we're going to
just
go
found
down
out.
that road in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But
juicy.
Tell
right?
us who owns Cleo now.
I do.
Okay.
I own Cleo.
No,
She
you
is
don't.
staying
No,
with
you
me,
don't.
Technically.
But technically not because of that whole thing. Yeah.
But the Animal Foundation's not asking you to bring her back
No.
anymore.
So
What
this
happened?
past Saturday, so July 5th, I get a phone call. I recognize the number and I didn't answer it because, I'm not going to answer to them right now. And they left me a voicemail. They said, we tried contacting the people. They never responded. You're good to keep Cleo. Everything's all good. And then they said that her spay was scheduled for that day, but I hadn't taken her because I just still didn't know. It was still up in the air. So now I can get her spayed and get her scheduled for that.
What do you think happened?
I think they messed something up. I think they ran maybe the wrong chip number. Maybe a wrong chip, something. Oh yeah, she loves these treats. I think maybe a wrong chip number, or maybe or they ran it for a different dog, maybe another dog named Daisy, and they saw my paperwork and called me.
Mhm.
So I honestly don't know. But like I said, as of right now, I have it's through a voicemail, and I have the transcript of the voicemail that says we're good to go. And,
All right.
and of course it all says Daisy in there because that was her name in there. But yeah,
Now, I want to get into what Gina was bringing up. Since we have you here, someone who's just adopted an animal, I use that in quotations, adopted an animal from the Animal Foundation. We would love to hear what the experience is about, was like, and what you told us when we were waiting to come in here is that you did a foster to adopt. So explain that.
So the only reason it's the foster to adopt was because she still needed to be spayed. So that was one of the first things that I asked. Was like, is she spayed? They said no. So for the adoption to be finalized, she would need to be spayed. But they said we can schedule that out a few days out, and basically what it'll be is a foster to adopt, and then once the spay is done, we'll finalize the paperwork. So, and like I said, that was supposed to happen just this past Saturday. But since it was all up in the air, I didn't
So
want to
you
take her
left
to the
with an
shelter.
appointment? They gave you an
Yes.
appointment, and where did they tell you to bring the dog back
To the Animal Foundation.
Oh, really? They were going to do it
for
there?
for the spay, and that's
Because
why.
God forbid they would actually do it before at the Animal Foundation before, but we're going to talk about that later.
Yeah,
Because contractually, they're really not supposed to release dogs unsterilized, but they do it all the time, and then they sort of
And most of the dogs
violate
never
the
get
spirit
sterilized.
of the contract.
yeah,
Yeah.
And there was something in my paperwork here. I couldn't find it before we were getting started, but there was something in there that said specifically foster to adopt. If the original owners come back, they can the dog can go back to the original owners as long as whatever
Right.
it is. And I wish I could have found that paper. I must have taken it out.
And that's what confused me to begin with, because their policy is once you've adopted a dog, that's your dog. If they find the owner or the owner comes forward, it's too bad. It's not their dog
quite
anymore.
often owners come forward devastated. And I'm sure if you went out of town and maybe your friends lost her and, the 72-hour hold was up and then you got back a couple days later, you would want someone to return her to you and your family, but they usually don't do that. They usually are like, too bad, so sad. That's why we were surprised that they would even consider doing that, because a lot of people will threaten to sue the shelter or whatever. And I always say, right on, go for it. Let us know how that works out. But no, we've had a lot of situations where, the people are gone or out of town, or they get lost by the dog sitter or whatever. And they don't even try. So I mean, I think that personally, I'm actually kind of glad that they would maybe if someone came forward, but in this case, no one had even come forward, which is
11 days.
This whole thing is so confusing to me about what happened. But
why did it take 11 days?
Yeah, it just makes no sense. But I do want to say thank you for adopting. And was she free? Was she a fee waived?
Yeah.
And so the spay and everything was included in that.
Promotions work.
The promotion.
Right, RT?
Yep, they do.
Well,
and RT loves his dog. RT is going to take care of his dog.
Well, you happen to be one of the good ones.
We appreciate it, and especially being a large breed dog and being a black dog. Thank you. Unfortunately, like black cats, black dogs, it's very difficult to get the larger breed dogs and people like the white fluffy dogs and not necessarily the, So thank you so much.
Yeah. One of the things that actually drew me to her also was that she reminded me of one of my older dogs, Bugsy, who was a chocolate lab and pit bull mix. I believe she's an Australian Kelpie. But yeah, she looks a lot like Bugsy, just a little bit smaller. So like, all right.
She's adorable.
I do want to say too, I reached out to the Animal Foundation, invited them to have a spokesperson on or to give a statement. No response from them. I've also invited Hillary Gray, CEO of the Animal Foundation, to come be a guest on the podcast because I know we all would have a lot of questions for her and give her a chance to defend herself if she would like to, but have not received a response back yet. And so that's an open invitation anytime she would like to come on. I would love for you to talk about, just for a couple minutes, what the adoption process was like, because we hear a lot of horror stories.
In my case, it was pretty good, until everything else kind of hit the fan afterwards. But going down that day, I had my kids that day, so we didn't get there till about 5 p.m. They said that we were only allowed to see 3 dogs in a single day, and we told them the number for the first dog that we wanted to see, and then they were looking up that dog and they were saying that their classification system, like that dog had a blue paw, so it had a few ailments. So I told my kids that, and I was like, okay, this dog is a little bit older, so maybe that's not the best pick. We met another one who was gorgeous, black with like really white eyes. His name was Shadow, and he was just a little too big for my apartment. And then we met Daisy here, or Cleo, as she's much better named. My daughter thought of that, and baby
Cleo
girl wanted that.
Oh,
Cleo's
her.
perfect. Yeah.
So did someone at the shelter go with you and visit each dog, or how does that work?
No. So what I had done was we went into the we didn't even go through the main part of the adoption. It was the main doors of the adoption facility. It was the side back space. So I told them the first dog that we wanted to see. They told me where she was or where he was, and then we went to go see him. And then it was like, okay, if you guys want to meet him, come up to this counter, and then we'll be able to get the dog. But that was when they told me, some of the things that dog had wrong with him. So then we moved on to Shadow, and then that time they brought out Shadow, and then later they brought her out. Yeah.
All right, and you said how long did the whole process take? You think?
Only about 2 hours or so, I think. Yeah, we were getting out like right as they were closing at 7:00 that day. And we got there pretty much right at 5 or so.
I wonder if they've changed their policy, because I'd always heard you can see 1 animal. This is the first I've heard you could see 3. Have either of you heard that before?
I've heard 1. I've heard 3. But maybe because you went later in the day. I think if you would have gone
slow.
Earlier, it would have been a longer wait.
Yeah, and it seemed like there were, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 other families that were there getting animals, but it seemed like they were all mostly there for cats rather than the dogs. Then, so we got through the line pretty quickly. And then, they said, we can go take everything to the front, they'll bring her out, and then we're good to go. And that was when they scanned her. And no, they didn't say anything about me needing to register it or anything like that. But that was in itself another issue, another can of worms, because I had to get my ID naturally. But I'm still waiting on my real ID to come in the mail. I've been waiting 2 months for that damn thing. And like I said, another can of worms. But so they had my old my license that has my old address where I lived with my ex-wife. So they don't even have the right address.
So, they don't even have the right address.
No, but when I went to the vet today,
were there
cleared all that
any?
up.
Okay, so were there any? Was there any educational information provided to you? Do they think you live in a house or an apartment, or you're a renter? Like, did they ask if dogs were allowed, or if your landlord allowed you to have dogs, or
I think
anything along those lines?
Nothing verbally, just stuff that's in this paperwork that they were like, okay, kind of give this stuff a once over. They didn't actually say that, but
so they just kind of gave you the packet and said, here's information.
Yeah.
You might want to read through it. So there's nothing verbal. Was there a training class offered? Because from my understanding, there was supposed to be a trainer that was supposed to come in. And this was at one of our quarterly meetings there. There was a trainer there that was supposed to offer training classes for new adopters.
Not on the spot.
I believe it was to come back.
I think it might just be this.
Okay,
which is just a back to basics boot camp, or bark to basics.
Are they charging, or is it free?
No, I think $150 for 5 weeks on here. So there was no conversation about any of that. So I don't know. No education.
So there was nothing explained to you. It was just, here's the packet, read through it, and that was it. Okay.
Is there anything else you want to add, or anything you think the Animal Foundation could have done better?
Yeah, honestly, I think they could have done their homework properly, because it felt like a thinly veiled threat when they called and said, well, this is the law, this is what our agreement is with Clark County, so she needs to be in our custody 2 weeks, all these things, and I was like, you're gonna try to take my dog away from me, like, I'm not having that, so come and get her, try it. And yeah, so she's been perfectly fine. And, she's, look at this. This is
she's a sweetheart.
Such a great dog.
Is she on the camera? Can people see her? Okay. She's adorable.
Yeah. And it's like, and there's like so many great things about it. Like one of her toes on one of her front paws is white. It's like, that's like the only spot. I was like, oh man, that's just one of her little things that you start to like fall in love with immediately. And
all right, she's coming home with me.
Oh yeah.
I think she's coming home with me.
She's a friendly girl.
He's like, you got to fight me for her.
We appreciate you coming in. We actually have another guest today. And so we want to thank RT and Cleo for coming in and sharing their story.
Thank you.
And we hope you guys have a long
And thanks for
life
fighting
together.
for her.
Oh,
We're glad that you started asking questions. Not that, if there had been a family that was, actively searching for her and desperate to get her back, I think that, that might have been a different story.
I could have been understandable for that.
It didn't. It was like, well, let's make sure that,
Yeah, they said bring the dog back. I thought they had already found the owner.
No. They said, no, we need to scan her. We need to try to contact these people, give them, ample time to respond. And they were able to do that without me ever taking her back and me defying, what they had asked.
Right.
Well, I'm glad. Did you post it on social media?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I did.
Glad you did that, and glad that the right people saw it and shared and tagged us all. So
thanks a lot for coming in.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right, with us now, our second guest of the podcast. We're doing 2 guests this time. We're packing the info in for our listeners and viewers. We have Dave Schweiger with Bunnies Matter. Dave not only runs the only bunny rescue in town, I would say.
Correct.
But also is one of the authorities on backyard breeders, if you ask me. He's a leader. He's championed that cause. He is always writing emails to our elected officials. He started up his own task force to actually go after backyard breeders and turn that information over to the authorities. So, Dave, welcome. Thank you for coming here. Tell everybody a little bit about Bunnies Matter and how you got passionate about helping animals.
Oh, just Bunnies Matter. Somebody in 2015 dumped 6 bunnies in our neighborhood. And when they turned to 24, after about 2 or 3 months, I was told by somebody who was in that rescue said, you need to get them fixed right now. So that's kind of how I got involved.
And how did you get involved in backyard breeders?
Backyard breeders was just really when I first got into the rabbits, I kind of looked around. I'm like, why isn't anybody going after the illegal breeders? They're the ones causing all this mayhem in our city. And you talked and people said that, spay and neuters and stuff like that. But to me, the number one issue is stopping illegal breeders. Number 2 is low cost spay and neuter, public. And we really don't have either of that. Just a little bit started now. But, it's been none for years and years.
Well, do you guys have some questions for Dave? Gina
What?
has a news flash here, I would say. Gina came in with some data that relates to what we were just kind of talking about, and I know you're heavily involved with as well, which is the Foster to Adopt program at the Animal Foundation. You recently adopted a cat there, correct?
Right. 2 cats. So
Were they fixed?
is it? Yes, they were fixed.
Okay.
2 boys, they were fixed. And I met my wife and 2 daughters. They had like 3 different cats they wanted to look at. And I had told them, they only allow 1 at a time. So they all picked a cat they wanted, went in together, and we were able to see all the cats they wanted at the same time, and then pick these 2, which, they're like the cutest things in the world. Where's So anyway, that's the trick. You could see, like, you can get in line like 3 times or something like that. I guess if nobody was there, they would probably let you see it. But to me, that's not the optimal way of adopting out animals.
Yeah, they don't make it very convenient. And real quick, did you already talk about the bunny dump site, the bunnies that are available for adoption right now?
Yeah. So one thing I'm working with the Animal Foundation right now. They've actually been really good. They we're down to less than 10 adults, probably a couple teens, and then a bunch of babies. But the babies can't have babies, and the teens can't have babies yet. So we're down to less than 9 adults. So we're watching it close. They're stuffed with bunnies. I'm stuffed with bunnies. The SPCA is full. And really, it would just be, we really just need to take those last bunnies and get them fixed.
Okay.
Where's this at?
At a Northwest, it's like a couple acre property that the bunnies got moved around. It's about 7 minutes from Floydland Park. So the bunnies got moved around different properties and stuff like that. They went to this lady's house and she started feeding. So of course that's where they all go if you feed them. So
can you talk about the situation that just happened? You sent out an email to animal control about a bunny that was found that was dumped at Floydland Park, I believe, and was shipped.
Yeah. Well,
and then like they both said there was a husband and wife and they were divorced, and one I think said one thing that they didn't know where the bunny was, or I don't know.
Yeah, and that was you. So yeah, I was thinking, we're gonna nail somebody, Class B felony, right? They dumped their bunny at Floydland Park. Of course, get the husband calls me after I report it that we found it because somebody dumped it at Floydland Park. And then it was a white lop, I think. And he's something that's not going to escape from somebody's house.
And drive itself to the
he
park.
called me. He said, "Hey, I haven't seen that bunny for years. My ex-wife took it when we got divorced or whatever." And then Animal Control talked to the ex-wife, and basically she hung up on him or whatever. So they, nothing happened. So I'm sure she was probably involved in dumping it, but nothing's going to happen. But it's just a bunny.
But just real quick, and then we need to start talking about the FTAs. But I don't think people truly understand. They get bunnies, especially like around Easter or whatever, and they think that it's okay to dump them, just like when they were dumping them at the mental health site where there were just thousands of bunnies, that they can't survive. They are, especially when they're tame bunnies, that they don't survive. So when people think, I'm going to take this bunny and put it in a park and it's going to live a wonderful life, it's basically coyote bait. So it's very cruel, and it's not only illegal.
Die a terrible death.
Yeah, that they are not able to.
Right. No, it's absolutely horrible. It happens all the time. This like past 3 weeks, we got like 6 bunnies from Sunset Park. We had 2 from Floydland Park, 1 from Angel Park. That's one we named her Angel. 1 from Patriot Park. I mean, it's crazy how many people dump them, and it's 110 degrees out.
Yeah.
And we usually don't get them right. It's usually the next day when we find out that, we were at the park last night and we saw it, and the next day they're calling them like, could be dead by now. I mean, they're all the ones we've been picking up are super gentle. You can just walk up and pick them up. It's not like they're wild bunnies that are, they're people's pets that they just dumped them.
Can people still legally sell rabbits, bunnies in Clark County or the city?
They can, but years ago we had the laws changed so that if they're less than 4 months old, they need a spare neuter voucher. If they're over 4 months before they're sold, they're supposed to be fixed. Apparently, you can do foster to adopt if you're a shelter, but yeah, the law. And actually, I asked about that law. I had talked to Jim Anderson on that law, and he said shelters and rescues, the same rules don't apply as like pet store, I guess.
So did that put an end to bunny sales at stores then?
It's for the most part. They used to have bunnies at Jones Feed all the time. All the feed stores had them. So we stopped that. And then the pet stores, there's like Petland. Every once in a while, come Easter, they try to sneak some in. And the first thing I do is call animal control and bust them.
Dave is on top of it all the time.
So when I find out, I call and I said, hey, I saw the rabbit, $35. That includes a spay or neuter. Like, no. Well, it has to. So you can't sell them for $35 if they're,
Did you help get that ordinance passed?
Yes.
Thank you. Where are people getting bunnies then?
Craigslist. I mean, all over. I mean, Instagram, but Craigslist is the number one dog, cat, and bunny seller. And that's where when we, you would, for a couple years, I had a group, and I can tell you why we ended, but we went after illegal breeders in the city, county, Henderson, and North Las Vegas, and we fed them to the right jurisdiction.
When you say you went after them, you actually were calling up, pretending to want to purchase one of their puppies.
Correct. So, yeah, and that's all we did. The people were like, you're a bunny rescue. Why are you going after illegal dog breeders? And I'm like, because people will notice dog people going to jail or getting fines. Nobody cares about bunnies, really. I mean, I do, but dogs are like number one.
And what happened then when you turned it over to?
So we would go. So I had originally got with Jim Anderson, talked to him. What does he need?
Tell everybody who Jim Anderson is.
Clark County. I'm not sure.
Animal protection chief, and also what is it called when you complain about too many cars in the yard or whatever? Code enforcement, code enforcement, and animal protection chief.
So I just asked. I said, "Hey, we got this big problem. What do we need?" And he goes, everybody calls and says, this address is selling puppies or whatever. That's not, we need firm evidence to nail these guys. So we did it. We would take a screenshot of the ad. We would usually do texting because then we can screenshot. So we would screenshot the ad, screenshot the conversation. We would ask them how much they were rehoming. It's like, we're rehoming $3,500.
Exactly.
We would get the address, and then you'd get the people like say they want to meet at Walmart or whatever. We say, hey, we're interested. So then we would use Bin Verified to help us snoop. So we'd put their phone number in there. We'd find an address close to that Walmart. And we're like, bam. We go to Zillow and look at their pictures of the dogs. Compare it to Zillow when their house was on sale.
Maybe we shouldn't be telling all the secrets.
I know,
right?
No.
But you did some serious investigative work.
Yeah, so we would prove. So when we gave them a case, it was solid. They had the address. They had the amount of dogs. They had if the parents were fixed or not. They had everything. And the reason we quit 2 years ago was because all of a sudden Jim Anderson thought it was too dangerous for the animal control people. So they started just sending out letters. So then the people would sell all their dogs for thousands and thousands of dollars. And then they would get a letter 6 weeks later saying, we know you were selling dogs.
It's
So
very
it's ridiculous.
And I'm like, my volunteers said, well, we don't want to do this if they're just going to waste our time. I mean, we've got it so they can nail them. These guys got 5 dogs right now. They're selling them for, $4,000 each. And you just let them go?
Yeah.
And in 6 weeks' time, they could be adopted. So then the proof is gone.
Oh, yeah, they're adopted. They're adopted in a week. We would go back.
Well, I don't know about now. I think
Sending
it's a
them a
little
letter.
tougher for some of the backyard breeders because it's hard. And we could talk about, you and I could probably talk about this a lot because we've done undercover investigations with Darcy Spears over the years and done a lot of different things about, what are you laughing about?
Nothing.
I don't even know. I don't even know.
It's an inside joke, but I'll tell you after. All right. Gina sent me an email, or someone sent me an email an hour ago and I'm like, what is this?
It was Dave
This-
because I sent it to him and asked him to
Okay.
please print it out because
I don't
I had
even
to
know
do
where.
text to
Yeah.
Word document.
So we're all, Melanie and I are learning about this just as everyone else is. Apparently, this is a list of every dog that left the Animal Foundation that was not fixed in the month of
Is
June.
it just
Is that
dogs
dogs
correct?
or
Can I
dogs
just-
and cats?
So let me explain. And I think if people remember the issue with Lucy, and this is something that we've been talking and complaining about and concerned about. I know animal control is concerned about this. This is one of those issues that we just harp away at, but we actually have like hard definitive proof now.
Where did you get this?
I don't ever reveal my
Is this-
sources, please.
Okay, so this was not
Anyway,
made public.
no, this is not made public yet, but this is,
It is now.
one of the issues
Yes.
when we were, when we were dealing with the Lucy situation, and I was parked in front of the Animal Foundation talking with, I think her name was Betsy, and I watched the most beautiful Dalmatian walk out, and his cojones dragging on the ground all the way to the car, and I was like, why do you guys keep doing this? Why do you guys keep putting unsterilized animals out? And we know they did this a lot. For sure, we know they did this a lot during COVID. And she looked at me and said, we'd rather do FTAs than youths, meaning an FTA is a foster to adopt. So by contract, they're supposed to spay and neuter every animal that leaves the shelter, unless they do a foster to adopt, because typically if the animal's too young or, it should be the exception rather than the rule that they would allow an animal to leave for a medical situation or whatever the excuse is. But every animal is supposed to be spayed or neutered, but they're allowed to do a foster to adopt, before and then the animal gets fixed and then they complete the adoption. But we just recently had a situation come to our attention where a dog was turned in as a quote unquote owner surrender. And the dog was adopted last year. And when
No.
the dog came back,
It was a foster to adopt.
It
It was a foster to adopt.
It was
that was
a foster-
surrendered back
as
to
a
the shelter as a
Mhm.
foster to adopt.
no, that's what I'm trying to say. It was adopted last year as a FTA, as a foster to adopt. The dog was intact. They obviously never got the dog fixed. So then they turned it in as an owner surrender, which technically wasn't an
Mhm.
owner surrender because they never truly owned the dog, just like with that guy.
Mhm.
If he doesn't get that dog fixed, our guest earlier, then he technically does not own the dog. The shelter does. But what happens is when all these animals that go out, and then recently, you may or may not have acquired some information that the dogs that go to get fixed, that at least, allegedly 50% of them are either cancellations or no-shows. So we know people are not returning the dogs. So this dog that we're talking about that just came back in the last couple weeks was a young dog, FTA last year, comes back as a quote-unquote owner surrender. Dog has boobies dragging on the ground,
Obvious
right?
signs that it had been pregnant.
Yes. So we know that people are not following through. They're not getting these dogs fixed. So essentially, Animal Foundation is like a backyard breeder, right? Or they're supplying the backyard breeders. They're doing free animal adoptions and they're sending out the dogs FTA, foster to adopt. We just acquired the list and thank you for doing it. So for me,
Thank you.
thank Dave.
Oh,
for-
okay. You were going to reveal
Well-
your source for a second.
Oh no, for actually numbering it. There's 334 dogs
Just in the month of May.
unsterilized
That's not an exception.
foster to adopt. This has become the rule now. And June is how many?
Oh, we have June too.
I guess I have it, like-
339.
Yeah, 339
I'm
dogs.
guessing that's 40% of all the dogs. These are all just dogs?
Yeah, these are the dogs. Now
I'll have to look at the numbers. But I'm going to guess that's 40%, maybe more, of all the animals.
The adoptions for each month.
Yes.
Now-
That went out for
Now,
dogs.
I have requested from Dave McGowan, Victoria Siemens, Councilwoman Victoria Siemens, Chief of Staff, to please look at, because as you can see, there are, when you look at the list, there are animal ID numbers that go with them. And we requested, the status, if these dogs are fixed or if they're not fixed or if these are all just alleged, whatever it is. But we did just get, I forgot to share with you guys. We did like a sample of 50 dogs on, I think like 2 weekends ago or something like that. And they did admit that the majority of them went out FTA. So
that guy, and that guy clearly wanted to adopt the dog, but because the dog wasn't fixed, it went under the guise of a foster to adopt. Like, why are they not fixing these dogs?
They don't have the staff, is what I was told.
Okay, but they just got millions of dollars for the next 6 months. So pay a vet, like pay your staff appropriately, get qualified individuals into that building.
Before COVID, they used to spay or neuter all of the pets before they left.
Exactly.
With very rare exceptions. And they were adopting out the same or maybe even more animals back then. So there's no reason why they can't be doing it now. It's just not a priority. They found an easy way out.
More money.
And they're taking it. They're taking the easy way out. They're saving money. They don't care that they're throwing thousands of dogs back onto the streets that is only going to make their shelter more crowded. It's only going to lead to them killing more dogs. They don't care. They're saving money on vet bills right now. That's all they care about.
And I believe there was a rescue that we've talked about, that we talked to, that same thing. Didn't she take in a dog that was going to be surrendered, or that was, I don't know what it was, but the dog was never fixed.
I mean, these dogs are found all the time running the streets, with the doggy task force. These dogs that go out, free on free adoption day from the shelter, we find them intact in other shelters. People that are fostering them try to give them away to other rescues because they don't want to take them back to the shelter. But the bottom line is, it's like being in a boat and going, we're sinking. And then instead of bailing the water out, you're like bailing the water in and then wondering why you're sinking. Like, how can you literally crying because your hallways are lined with, dog crates, because you don't have enough space. You're
supplying every breeder in town.
You need more money.
And you're part of the problem. You're causing part of the problem.
You are the cause of the problem. You are supplying backyard breeders with unsterilized dogs. It blows my mind. And
this is a bombshell, Gina.
Well, and I think they're accidental breeders because,
of course,
people bring they have a dog. All the time with rabbits, but they have an unfixed female at home and they just got an unfixed male.
And I think they know that they're releasing these FTAs to homes where they know there's another unsterilized animal. That's what I'm saying when we talked about the free adoptions and you try to say, oh, you'd rather kill them. No, I would just rather we don't put unsterilized animals out.
I never said adopt out free unsterilized animals. I never said that.
For free, and that's the problem I have is that when they do the free adoptions, this is how they're doing them. It has to stop. And yes, this is being recorded right now, so no one really knows this except those of us in this room. But yes, we need to collaborate. I don't know. Are we going to go do a press conference on the steps of City Hall? Or, I know Councilwoman Victoria Siemens' office is aware of this. I've had a conversation with Commissioner Marilyn Kirkpatrick. I know that the animal control agencies are frustrated because that was another one of my questions, and I'll gladly forward you the email and the answers to the questions, because I said, when they don't follow through and get the animal sterilized, what do you do? Well, we call them again, and then we send out a notice of compliance, and then because animal control,
they didn't have time to do that.
They don't really.
Of course, they're not going to have time to do that
if they don't comply.
I'm not sure that's really going on.
Of course, it isn't.
So there's really nothing.
They might make a phone call, but again, why are they then putting this on an organization like Animal Control, who has enough to do right now?
No, and they're
with
not.
All the
Animal Control
calls?
says it's not our job.
Okay, well then
so no
who's
one's
doing
following up. No one.
Because look, as a rescue, we've adopted out without finalizing dogs that are not fixed because they might have an upcoming appointment or they might be puppies, but we don't adopt out 300, 600 dogs in a month where we can control it. And I will go get a dog back if they don't show up to that. And if they don't show up to that appointment, I will be knocking on their door, and grabbing the dog back if that's what I need to happen. But it's never had to happen. We have
gone to houses
but I will.
to get dogs back for rescues and said, give us the dog back. Yeah.
Steve, I've actually we had people who didn't get their bunny spay or neutered, and I reported them to animal control. They went to their house and said, you need to do it or we're taking it back.
Exactly. And that's the difference between the rescues because they have the not that they have a lot of staff, but they have the volunteers and they're willing to follow through because they understand the importance of this. The Animal Foundation just doesn't care.
Mhm.
And we have been begging them, but now we know. I mean, this is the proof.
How hard would it be to put out an ad and say, hey, we need a couple volunteers to put calls in on these to make sure that they got them and then come up with a list?
We've even offered. And when I was talking to Commissioner Kirkpatrick, even she said, I will volunteer to transport the dogs to a vet office, get them fixed, bring them back. People can either pick them up at the vet office fixed, or they can pick them back at. But you heard what he said. I'm supposed to take the dog back to the Animal Foundation. And I'm like, then why did they release the dog in the first place? Why didn't they just schedule the dog for surgery and the guy could pick the dog up the next day?
But to
They
Bryce's
always
point,
used to
though,
do.
this never used to be an issue before.
They found a
So
way to
again,
save money.
yeah.
They don't have to sterilize half the dogs they're adopting out now.
Well, and I got to tell you too, like we had someone that wanted to surrender a dog to us. They filled out the surrender paperwork and then they changed their mind. Now, legally, the dog is ours and I could really go get the dog because they surrender the dog over. But if you really feel like you can commit for the next 15 years, but here's the thing, the dog's not fixed. So I gave them an ultimatum and I said, I will release the surrender form that you signed once the dog gets fixed. If you don't fix this dog in 2 weeks, I am sending animal control to your house. So like, why aren't those calls being made or something along those lines, to these people that aren't showing up too? Like, look, we're going to send animal control to your house.
I know,
if
but
you
it's
don't get the
probably
dog
almost a
fixed.
civil matter between it's not really animal control's job. And they're saying that too.
No, it isn't, but they can at least
let me
they can at
read
least
you-
use it as like a
No, I know, but
a buffer,
not
I
really
guess.
What
though,
do you have,
because
Gina?
then
mean,
Okay, the question. There are unconfirmed reports that a large number of scheduled sterilizations, possibly up to 50% for TAF pets, are being canceled or no-shows. This is why information is being requested to determine if it's factual, and if so, what the actual number may be. This is a question that I pose. We currently don't track the exact percentage of no-shows for post-adoption sterilization requirements. However, if
This
an
is the Animal
adopter,
Foundation's response?
yes.
Oh,
However, if an adopter or foster fails to comply, we conduct two phone call attempts, send one email, and then a notice of action letter. Ooh. If there is still no
and then
response,
no action
the
happens.
animal is marked as missing, stolen in our system.
A what?
Animals that are
I don't
outcomed in
believe
this
that.
manner are trackable and accessible in Chameleon.
See, and that's where I think if you get to that point after all the letters and the phone calls, that's when they need to make a phone call to
I love their
Control
letter
to
of
get
action
rid of
letter, which leads to no action.
Hold on.
Oh, you
When
mean like a letter
adopters-
sent to someone's house, even though he has an address that he gave when he
Yeah.
adopted Cleo? That's not even his address anymore. So
Yeah,
sending a letter to
like
the
that.
old address.
And
Yeah, that
then
one.
when adopters or fosters cancel or no-show, whose responsibility is it to follow up? Does that responsibility fall to APS? TAF reply. Follow-up is fully handled by the Animal Foundation. As we've previously confirmed with APS, these animals remain the property of TAF until sterilized. And APS has indicated that they do not have the capacity to follow up on these cases.
They don't.
So if it's the
Yeah.
Animal Foundation's property, what's the fine for having an unsterilized dog or cat in town? Because they've got thousands.
Exactly.
Let's
That's
add
what I'm
that up
saying.
and give
They-
them a
they
fine
are
if they're
violating-
claiming
Jim,
ownership.
Jim Anderson says it's a different rule for shelters than it is for normal
No, they're
people.
required to sterilize the pets. That is in
Yeah.
their contract.
But they are
Maybe
allowed
they
to
can't be
take
fined.
what is it, like a deposit, and then they're allowed. See, the foster to adopts were meant to be like an exception rather than the rule. Same with the
Mhm.
rescues, but they're using it as the rule and not the exception. And this
Exactly.
is
We
what's
all
absolutely
knew it was
disgusting.
happening. We had no idea of the magnitude. And then when you tell us how many are actually coming back to their appointments, this is groundbreaking. We're going to continue to follow up on this. We've got to wrap up the show right now, but
Yeah.
I know everybody, you're going to be hearing more about this for our lawsuit, which specifically goes into this. This is going to be very important information, but we need this policy change. They can no longer continue to adopt out animals, foster out animals to adopt with them never actually getting sterilized. They need to go back to the old way. When someone says, I want to adopt this dog, come back tomorrow and pick up your sterilized dog.
Exactly.
So, Dave, thank you for coming in. Please tell everybody where they can find out more about your rescue, how they can donate, how they can help.
Well, you can, if you just type in Google like Las Vegas Bunnies Matter, you'll find us. But it's our website is bunniesmatter.org, and we have a donation. We have an adoption page, a donation page, directions to. We're inside Floydland Park. And
Tell everybody about Floydland Park real quick.
So Floydland Park, we have a building there. Back in 2019, Michelle Fiore had wanted to get the bunnies out of the park. They were destroying the buildings and the grounds and the bridge. And so anyway, she asked us if we could clean them up. And, the plan was to move them to a different place in the park, but that never happened. We just asked, we said we needed a building. She gave us a building, and that the rest is history. We rescued all the over 70 bunnies at Floydland Park. And
they're there for adoption now. You can go on the weekends and adopt.
So those are all gone, but those are all long gone. But she had asked us at the time, "Do you guys want to continue to do what you're doing?" And we're like, "Yeah, we love saving the money." So we're inside Floydland Park. We're open for adoptions. Saturday's the main day, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We do Sunday appointments, and then during the week it's appointments, but it's harder.
I've been up there and visited. It's a great setup that you have there, and I encourage everybody, if you're going up to Floydland Park anyway, go by and see Dave. You're usually there, right?
Yeah. Well, that's my other full-time job.
Okay.
And please stop dumping your bunnies in parks.
Yes.
Yeah, because they die. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
They're coyote bait, or they just succumb to the...
Or dogs. People let their dogs loose to
elements.
Go kill a little wop that's just sitting there. I mean, it's horrible.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you again for coming in, and everybody tune in again. We're going to be doing this every week, and you'll be hearing more about this Foster to Adopt program. So thanks. Yeah, you got something else, Gina?
I do. I want to say, let's not forget that they're in contract negotiations right now. So please reach out to your elected officials, your county commissioners, your city council people, because even though they got the 6-month extension, this to me is like non-negotiable. They must stop doing this right now.
Yes, it needs to be in the new contract. No more foster to adopts. Thanks a lot for everybody for listening in to Paw and Order Las Vegas. We'll see you next time.